so we're doing all this, having all this conversation about these international brands and how they should use XiaoHongShu. But I find often when I talk to Australian brands, and I guess just brands in general, and I think from your experience, you found this at times too, is that there's a certain paralysis that sets in when you're thinking about entering the Chinese market. There's just so many unknowns, and even it's like the more you educate yourself, the more scared you get, because the more you realize, the more educated you are, the more you realize that the Chinese digital sphere is nothing like the Western one, and a strategy that might work in the U.S. is not going to work. It's not going to translate to China, and so the fear of the commitment and the financial investment. I think people really start to feel, and that often hinders them from jumping into platforms.
Yeah, we have met more than 100 of international brands to talk about helping them to go into China market, and this is exactly the situation.
Yeah.
They're so afraid because they don't know the language. It's so far away because of the logistics, and then they don't have a Chinese company and bank account. How do they receive the money? They don't know how to do marketing. They used to do Facebook, Instagram a lot, but that's a completely different story when we talk about WeChat, XiaoHongShu, Weibo. What are these? Live streaming, KOLs. Yeah, so it's quite difficult for them to get started.
Yeah, and I think the way that the Chinese digital sphere has developed, people have a different relationship with social media in China than they do in the West. So the way we interact is different, and then the functions that our social media channels have are also different. In China versus outside of China. So like I said, there's no direct translation, and I think that is very scary.
Yeah, so we always recommend XiaoHongShu as a starting point for the international brands because it's a sort of one-stop solution for them. It's a parts cross-border e-commerce business that you can set up your shop without a Chinese company or bank account. If you're an Australian brand, then you can do it. You can open the shop with your Australian business registration.
And that's really huge. I mean, the administrative burden of trying to set up a company, or I guess you could do a Woofy, but trying to set up a foreign company in China is quite difficult. And in terms of the financial investment required, it's very significant.
Yes. And also the logistics, XiaoHongShu supports cross-border logistics. They have warehouse in the US, they have it in Australia, Hong Kong, Europe. So you don't have to, worry about that. For example, in Australia, if you have an order on XiaoHongShu, then you just ship your order to their warehouse in Australia, and then XiaoHongShu will help you to ship it to the end customer in China.
Which is also a big differentiator, because in China, it's the speed of delivery is super important here, and people expect an even higher level of customer service in China than they do, I think, in outside of China. And so being able to deliver things in that sort of in a week span is super essential.
Yeah. So we would recommend the brands to really look at XiaoHongShu because it's really an easier way for them